Hello, my friends. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. The following is a conversation with Erik Henden, a local, important person in my life, a gentleman that's become a friend. And I hope you enjoy the conversation. He's an airline pilot. He's a mountaineer. He's a rower. And, something that we also didn't expect to talk about, but also enjoyed is a little bit of history and a little bit about Air Force flying, because we both share that in common as well.
All right.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, Erik, for being here. This has been great, getting to know you, and I think we have so much in common. So this is gonna be an easy conversation, a lot of fun for me personally. Since it's your first podcast, just want you to know that whatever you say here is going to be something for your grandkids to remember you,
Good, bad, or ugly. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when I first got into this, I kind of did it for posterity reasons, and not for marketing reasons.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it.
Yeah,
I think most people do it for the marketing reasons.
Right. Yeah. So I don't expect to gain anything from this. I'm just doing it because I enjoy it. So I asked my friends, people I enjoy conversations with, and so that's what it's been for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I knew that when I first talked to you at lacrosse, the lacrosse game, and you were telling me about Philadelphia, and I knew that you had Air Force background and the reserves, Merchant Marine Academy, right?
Yeah, that's wrong.
Yeah, so all that stuff, I thought, okay, this is a guy that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I've definitely taken the road less traveled, I guess, in life.
Yeah, exactly.
But the military kind of does that
right
for you, as you know. Yeah.
So take me back. The Merchant Marine Academy is or after high school, right?
Yeah. I was born and raised in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is not a place you would think of to be like a launching pad for going to a maritime school. But I was interested in going to a service academy when I was in high school. I was a freshman when 9/11 happened. So I think anybody who was in high school around that time was probably pretty impacted by that. So definitely was. And my dad was in the Air Force as well. So I was interested in, serving. And my dad told me if I went to a free college, he would buy me a car afterwards. So I was like, oh, cool.
Wow.
If I go to a service academy, it's free.
Nice.
I get to go do something cool in the military and get a free car. So that was kind of the strategy. And then, so I was doing research into all the academies, and I didn't really do JROTC throughout high school until my senior year. I kind of got involved and got to know the JROTC commander, this really amazing guy called, he was, retired, but Major Barker was everybody called him. He was a retired Marine major. So you can picture a retired Marine major. He's exactly what you're picturing.
Totally.
But he was just this amazing guy who kind of specialized in service academy prep. So I did this course with him in high school, and he had a lot of connections at the Merchant Marine Academy, and he was a huge proponent of it. And I was like, I'm looking at Air Force, Navy. And he's like, well, that's great, but those are pretty hard places to get into. Have you heard of the Merchant Marine Academy? And I was like, no. Because nobody has, especially not in New Mexico.
Right.
And then, long story short, he put me in touch with some of the admissions people. I applied. I got a nomination from my congresswoman, who was incidentally was Heather Wilson, who later would become the Secretary of the Air Force, which was kind of crazy.
Whoa, yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. She was my representative in New Mexico and
really
my district, and I met her in high school and everything, and interviewed, and she nominated me. And then fast forward, I don't know, 10, 15 years, she becomes the SecAF. I was like, oh,
whoa,
I know you. Wow. So that's cool. I got in and found out it was right outside New York City, and you can go to any branch of the military after you graduate, which is pretty cool. Active Guard or Reserve, which is a pretty good deal. So I was like, wow, this sounds cool.
Sounds like that guy was a really unique dude from high school.
Oh yeah, Major Barker. Yeah, he passed away a little while ago. He was older when I was in high school.
Really?
So he was, probably in his 50s or 60s when I was in high school a few years ago. Um,
Yeah, right.
but
A couple years ago.
yeah, he passed away probably 5 or 10 years ago. But really amazing guy. Like one of those.
Mhm.
Everyone has those people in school who like really
Mhm.
change their lives and change the lives of a lot of people. And he was one of those guys. You know, like
Yeah.
you see why people want to go into education because you can really change people's lives. He
Yeah,
definitely did
definitely.
that for me.
Yeah,
So,
especially in high school, there's probably like,
especially high school.
yeah, right. You think about like those impactful. For me, it was like an English teacher,
Hmm.
and a lot of times they're the older teachers.
Yeah.
Not always, but ones
Well,
that
they're
are
just a little
close to
bit
retirement.
wiser. They
Yep.
know. They probably know. Like they've probably learned the hard way. Like here's how you steer a kid in the right direction.
Hmm.
Plus, you probably maybe respect the older ones a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like if somebody's like in their 20s, you might not
Hmm.
quite listen to them as much as like someone in their 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
Not that that's the right
Right.
answer necessarily, but
Well, I went to officer training, Merchant Marine Academy. From what I know about Air Force Academy, just from friends,
mhm.
it's very structured. So
Yeah.
what life is like there, and you're getting a college degree, but you're
Yeah.
also doing some other stuff, right?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's definitely structured for sure. Like it's a similar program at all the academies. So there's 5 academies, right? There's
Yep.
Air Force, Army, Navy, Coast Guard, and Merchant Marine. Um, the big three are pretty well known. Coast Guard and Merchant Marine, not so much. But it's a similar thing. Like you show up, you go through indoc or indoctrination. So like
Hmm.
basically, they shave your head.
Hmm.
They teach you all these
Yep.
silly rules
Yep.
and make you march everywhere
Yep.
and um, square corners and stuff like that, which is like you get to a corner and you have to like do like a left face or a right face just to
Yep.
like turn 90 degrees.
Yep.
So it's all a
Mhm.
big game, but
Yep.
it's all like to teach you discipline and stuff like that, which I
Mhm.
think is actually really good as like an
Mhm.
18, 19-year-old
Yep.
kid, like to
Definitely.
learn some discipline. Um, in hindsight, at least, like in the moment, it wasn't super fun,
Right.
but it's all similar. You go through Indoc, your first year, they call them different things at all the different schools, but like the Navy term is plebe, So I
Hmm.
was a plebe my freshman year. Air Force calls them like dualies, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know what West Point calls them. You just get treated like garbage. You get in trouble all the time. You get room inspections, and so your first year sucks a lot. But
Mhm.
you know that going in, and it's like, and I think the really cool thing is you go through it with this group of people, which I'm still very close with, right? Like my classmates. I think there were usually, I don't know about all the academies, but at Merchant Marine, it's about a third of each class ends up leaving for one reason or another. So we
Mhm.
we started out with close to 300 kids, and the class of 2009, and we 197 when we graduated, and
Mhm.
I'm pretty close with you know, um, I mean quite a few of them, like maybe more than your average college
Right.
class. I don't know about you, but that's the cool thing is it forges like this pretty tight bond,
Oh yeah.
because you go
Hmm.
through this terrible situation
Yeah.
together,
Exactly.
and when you make it out, you're like,
Yep.
wow, like these people, like nobody does it alone,
Right.
like they're kind of like your brothers and sisters
Totally.
by the time it's all over.
Yeah. It
So
probably requires a lot of resilience. And
yeah, just like one day at a time. I don't know.
yeah. Exactly.
I mean, I think all of us, when we were graduating, we look back, we're like, how did we do that? But it's really like one day at a time,
Mhm.
and I don't know,
What?
I appreciate how it taught me like about time management and like
Yeah.
you know just I don't know, just don't give up. Then you eventually will succeed, right?
Right.
As long
Exactly.
as you just don't give up.
Yeah.
Sounds simple, but
It does.
maybe you have to like live through something pretty terrible to.
Hmm.
I'm making it sound probably worse than it was. I mean, it was like, um, it's just a game you
Yeah.
play, right?
Hmm.
And then you get to the end of your freshman year, you get recognized, as they say, and they basically treat you like a normal person again, and you can
Hmm.
you can grow your hair out, and
Yeah. And at the end of it, you get to feel like,
it's
hey,
just
I've
so
been through
gratifying. Yeah,
something big, and so I can take
yeah,
on anything.
yeah. I think that's such a, I don't know. That's what I hope my kids experience in some form or
Hmm.
fashion is like something really challenging.
Yeah.
You get through it, and you're like, okay, if I can do that, I can do anything. You
Mm.
know, Which, I don't know if they're going to go to, a military school, but like think every college age kid. That's like, hopefully you can have that kind of experience, you know?
Yeah, that reminds me, we're both parents. You know,
Yeah.
both of our boys are the same age.
Same,
So
yeah.
we know each other from lacrosse.
Yeah.
And they're playing lacrosse together this season.
Yeah.
And one of the things you talked about with challenges like Merchant Marine Academy or some difficult thing we have to go through in life. And we're both parents, so it like reminds me like, okay, so as we're giving our children, challenges, how much is too much? I remember getting my son Luke into wrestling, and having him watch him get beat in wrestling is difficult for a parent to watch.
Yeah, it's hard to watch your kids fail.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then experiencing secondhand, seeing his resilience after that loss, and then how he handled it, and then went on to win more matches. And as he would lose a match, he would learn a lot more than winning.
Yeah.
So allow your children to fail.
Oh yeah,
is the message.
Yeah, as long as it's like in a safe way, right? Like,
right.
But yeah, like sports, who cares?
Right. Exactly.
And I mean, in the moment as a kid, it's like devastating to lose a game or a match, but it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
But it teaches you so much. Yeah, they say like sports are like a microcosm of life, right? Which like kind of like everything life entails is like encapsulated in sports, right?
Yeah, that's what sports teach you.
Yeah. Adversity, teamwork, hard work.
Yeah,
fitness,
exactly. The best employees, the best teammates, if you look at their background, they're usually on a team sport. They've gone through difficult challenges with sports and coaches. Maybe they've been through things like you're talking about with the Merchant Marine Academy.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge believer in sports. Like I wish I would have played sports more seriously as a kid. I got like more serious as I got into college. Like I was on the rowing team in college, and I ended up doing that all 4 years. And like I had never even heard of rowing really until I got to college.
I'm sure your body type.
Yeah, I'm tall and lanky, so like I think my friend was trying it, and the coach was like, "Oh yeah, you got the build to be a rower." And I was like naturally very like inclined towards rowing, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like even in college, as I was older, like we won some, we lost some, but like just the teamwork aspect and like waking up at 4:30 to go row on Long Island Sound. Like, I mean, it was brutal waking up, but I don't want to let my teammates down, and so that kind of stuff. It was definitely formative.
How do you find out if you're a good rower or not? Do you get onto like a Concept 2 rower?
Yeah, a lot of it's, they call it like, well, it's an ergometer, but like the slang in the rowing world is ergs, right? So like a lot of it's based on erg times. So there's two main tests that you do as a competitive rower. There's a 2K and a 6K erg test. And so every, the fall is, they call it head racing season. So like, I guess like rivers have like headwaters, right? So like that's where the term comes from. But they have all these races, especially on the East Coast, where like, the head of the Charles, like in Boston, stuff like that, where it's, you row a long ways down a river. And to select like rowers for boats and stuff, you do a 6K test. So a good time would be like, I don't know, in the low 20s, like 20, 21 minutes. And then the spring is sprint season. So it's like what you see in the Olympics, where it's a 2,000 meter straight sprint race. And for that, you do a 2K test.
How long does that take?
I mean, Olympic rowers are doing 2K tests in 6 minutes, maybe less than 6 minutes.
Okay. So it's like a mile and a half run time. It's still endurance.
Yeah. I'm trying to do the math in my head. Yeah. What is 2,000 meters? That's like a nautical mile, right?
Yeah. But as far as a runner, they're running 4, 5, 6 minute miles.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like an all out, an all out like 5 or 6 minute deal.
Yeah. And you're at the max oxygen carrying capacity there. So a VO2 max is a big deal.
Yeah. Rowing, I think cross country skiing and rowing have been proven to be like the most taxing sports overall, where it's like you're literally, VO2 max, you're working every muscle, you're just, you're exerting as hard as you can as a human being.
Yeah. I can't imagine
at the finish line, it's like you're just smoked, like you're
Right.
done for.
Yeah, because on the bike, you're not using your arms. You're
Right.
using your legs. Rower, you're using arms and legs.
Right. So like swimming, rowing, cross country skiing, things like that, you're using your whole body. And it's like when you win, it's like the best feeling in the world. And when you lose, it's one of the worst feelings.
Yeah.
It's like after all that and you still lose, you're like, ugh.
Yeah. And you're using your big muscles. You know?
Yeah, well, it's mostly legs,
Yeah.
which a lot of people don't realize. Like a lot of people do like, you know, CrossFit or go to the gym and they get on the rowing machine. And I mean, a lot of people who go to the gym do a lot of like, you know, upper body, bicep curls, whatever, like for cosmetic reasons. And they get on the rower and they have like strong arm muscles. And they're like, oh, I'm just going to manhandle this rowing machine. But that's how you like hurt your back and stuff. Because proper form is to use your legs, because your legs are like by far the biggest muscles in your body. And the seat slides, right? So like, anyway, if you're good at it, you're probably using your legs 75% of the power. And then your upper body kind of comes into play for the finesse or the technique, where you're like, you know, there's different phases in the rowing stroke, but it's like when your legs are extended, that's when your upper body kind of comes into play.
Right.
And then you slide back up. And it's all about the, trying to remember the term, there's like the catch when the oar goes in the water, and then you drive with your legs. And that's where like the power really comes from.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and there's probably some momentum from that is blended into the arms.
Yeah, it's like if you're good and you're like a skilled rower, like it's all kind of one fluid motion. And if your boat is good, you're all doing it exactly in unison.
Right.
And then if your boat is like really, really good, then I think they call it the run, where you get in this state where like the boat is kind of like floating, because you're like all just moving completely in unison.
Wow.
And it's like one of the most amazing experiences or feelings I've ever had. And it's like incredibly hard to get to that point.
Really?
Oh yeah. But
now tell me about that. That's cool, because I'm also interested in Boys in the Boat book.
Yeah.
Have you read that book?
It's a great book. Yeah, I saw the movie too.
Did you?
Pretty recently, yeah.
Okay.
But great book, yeah.
I'm sure they talk about that, right?
I think they do. Yeah. Because you know, like at the beginning of every season, it's like a different group of kids, right?
And how many rowers are in that boat?
Well, for those guys, it was 8. So like top level rowing, you know, the premier race is like the 8-man boat, right?
I see. Okay.
We kind of focus more on 4-person shells. When I was, you can say shell or boat, you know, it's interchangeable, but being a smaller school, you know, we were able to be more competitive with a 4 versus an 8. So I did a lot of 4 rowing in college.
So is it 4 or 8? There's not a 6?
There's no 6. There's singles, doubles, 4s, and 8s.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, and you can have a double or a pair. A double has a coxswain, pair has no coxswain.
Okay.
So when I was in college, I did a lot of 4s, occasionally 8s, and then I did a lot of pair rowing with this friend of mine, Brad.
Yep.
Because we were both like super tall and, you know, matched up well. So,
right.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing book. And I think they do talk about that, where, you know, when it all just clicks one day, it's like, it's such an incredible feeling, because you know, it's like the ultimate team sport, right? Like there's no stars really. Like it's truly like you all have to be pulling together.
Yep.
And it's, you know, it's one of the only sports that's like that I can think of. Maybe the only sport where it's like, it doesn't really matter what one individual person does. It's like, it's a team effort.
So is it really important that the catch is synchronized?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, everything, but, that might be the most important part. And if you screw it up, you can, I don't know, for example, there's like something called catching a crab, where like your oar basically gets caught underwater and the boat's moving pretty fast. So like the oar gets hung up underwater and the handle can like literally throw a rower out of the boat.
Wow.
Into the water. Yeah. Like you can see videos online, like just go on YouTube, you know, search for catching a crab and rowing. And yeah, literally, like the big carbon fiber oar handle will like physically throw a guy out.
If they don't get the rower out of the water, right?
Well, like
it gets caught in the water.
Well, like the oar, the blade or the paddle will get caught underwater if it's like, you know, if he messes up the stroke.
Sure. Just a little bit too deep.
A little bit too deep, whatever.
Mm.
And then the handle will just like, you know, catch the rower and put him out of the boat. Or the boat can flip sometimes if you really screw it up.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's a little bit risky.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but you know, it was fun. It was a cool experience. And
so in the Olympics, is there a 4 and an 8, or is it just an 8?
there's everything in the Olympics. Yeah.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah, it's probably one of the older Olympic sports, I would
Sure
imagine. But yeah, there's singles all the way up to 8s,
Mm-hmm.
and the most prestigious race in the Olympics is the 8.
The 8 man.
Heavyweight 8, which
and then,
usually it's like, you know, there's like 4 or 5 countries that are always competing for that. It's like England, US, Germany, maybe Italy.
and they have prelims and finals.
Yeah,
right?
there's different heats, you know, so there's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's super fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
You have like qualifying heats,
Mm-hmm.
semifinals, finals.
And the boat
Yeah.
or the shell, they're all exactly the same.
Well, there's different brands. I don't know about like weight specifications. Like for the Olympics, might be more strict. But like in college, like we kind of had our boats that we bought, and I don't think they ever really got inspected or anything. It was just like, and then they're expensive. I mean, they're made out of carbon fiber, so
everything on them is carbon fiber.
Well, the whole shell, yeah. So I mean, I don't know exactly how much an 8-person shell costs, but probably 50, 60 grand at least. So it's definitely not a cheap sport.
Right.
Which is why I think it's kind of known as like a, you know, elitist type, Ivy League sport. But which is where it started, kind of. I think like Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, Yale.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a crazy sport. Waking up early.
Yep.
We would joke, you know, like there's this like corny rowing joke that it's the only sport that originated as capital punishment. You know, like originally they would chain people to oars and make them row like on slave ships and stuff like that. And one day, some, you know, rich guy at Oxford was like, "Hey, let's do this for fun. You know, let's go race down the Thames."
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah, because you're right. Slaves used to do it.
Yeah, rowing was not a fun thing for most of human history.
Yeah, it probably was part of naval combat too.
Yeah, I mean, definitely like in battles, I think they were like when there wasn't much wind or whatever, they were like rowing to maneuver the ships. And I think those were mostly, you know, slaves down there, unfortunately, or like captured and, you know, enemy warriors or and now it's just a thing that, you know,
it'd be cool to go out with you like on Big Lake. Have you seen anybody out there in like a sculling boat? Is that what you call it?
Yeah. Well, sculling is with 2 oars. Sweep rowing is with 1. But if you're just like by yourself in a single man boat, it's sculling. Yeah, I would like to buy a shell actually, but you know, like I said, they're not cheap. So it's a matter of financial priorities. But yeah, I've thought about even trying to like start a little Big Lake rowing club.
That'd be cool.
But I don't know. I think the hardest part for me is just being gone all the time for work. Like it's be challenging. But
having your schedule regular enough to like say every Tuesday morning.
Yeah,
you know?
That's hard for me. Like as an airline pilot, you know, it's like maybe someday when I have more seniority and I can, you know, control my schedule a little bit more. But yeah, we should start that up. Big Lake Rowing Club. Have you ever rowed in your life?
Just in CrossFit, and we got a Concept 2 rower.
Right, but not like on the water.
No, but I think it would be an incredible workout in the morning.
It is.
And
it has to be in the morning. Like you can't sleep in because that's when the water's calm. Right?
Exactly.
I mean, in the evening you
could do it then.
You get out there, but like nobody really wants to go work out at like 8 or 9 p.m. when the water's calm.
Right. Exactly.
I mean,
I'm sure it's a morning thing. Totally.
Traditionally, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My uncle actually gets out there. He's got a little. It's not like a traditional racing shell, but it's like kind of like a wider, more stable boat, but it's got the sliding seat, it's got the oars, and he rowed in college at ELU.
Okay.
He actually has this story, which I'm assuming it's true, but the boat, the Husky Clipper from Boys in the Boat, right?
Yeah.
I think it's the one they took to Germany for the Olympics. Supposedly, PLU borrowed it from UW.
Mm.
When he was in college, my uncle Gary, back in the 60s, I guess, he was
Mhm.
on the crew team at PLU, and I guess they rowed in that boat,
Really?
which by that point it was not state of the art anymore, right?
Mhm,
And it
mhm.
was probably not yet like a protected historical,
Yep,
you know,
yep.
thing. Because now I think it's on display in the boathouse at UW. Like you can
Yeah,
go do a
sure.
tour and look at it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's
But
hanging on the wall.
yeah, I think they have it hanging up in like in the ceiling at their.
Yep.
They have a really cool old boathouse there. It was like a World War One like seaplane hangar or something, and
Yeah,
and they turned it into the UW
it's pretty
boathouse.
cool. That channel right there is pretty neat.
Yeah, the
What they call the locks, or what they call that?
forget, like in between Lake Washington and Lake Union. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah. So um he apparently got to row in that boat from, you know, from the whatever Olympics that was. Yeah, it was like 38 or
Was it 38?
it was
Yeah,
the one right before World War II.
yep. I think it was 38.
Yeah,
That was when the year Jesse Owens
Jesse
won.
Owens. Yeah, There's-
And
yeah. There's another great movie.
and it was in Germany, right?
Yeah, in
In
Berlin,
Berlin,
I
right?
think. Yeah. Yeah, pictures from that are crazy. Like
Yeah.
just swastikas everywhere, and like,
Yep.
Hitler's in the crowd. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think everyone was still kind of hoping that things would get worked out with like appeasement and all that. And
Totally. Nobody knew that the world was going to be wrecked.
no. And another great book and movie, that Unbroken.
Okay.
Did you ever read that or see the
Mm-mm.
movie? It's about this runner
Mm-hmm.
who he went to that same Olympics, and yeah, he met like Jesse Owens and all that, and then he became I think a like a bombardier or something
Okay.
on whatever World War II bomber.
Mm-hmm.
He got shot down. He has the most incredible life story. They got shot down. They survived for like weeks and weeks, maybe months, in a raft in the Pacific,
Mm-hmm.
just by like fishing. You know, um, they got captured by a Japanese ship. Went to a Japanese POW camp.
Right.
He survived that.
Yep.
And I think he lived into his 90s or whatever.
Yeah, I've heard about that movie.
It's like Louis Zamperini or Zamperini.
Yeah, I've never saw. I've seen. I know what you mean. Of the clips
I
from.
think
it.
it's a book too.
Right.
But just an unbelievable life story. So anyway, speaking of the 1938 Olympics.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, rowing was cool. I would love to get back into it. There's some clubs around here, like on
Mhm.
I think Lake Whatcom has a club and Everett has a club. But as you know, where we live, it's like kind of far to get anywhere.
Yeah.
So to drive to like Lake Whatcom or Everett at 5 a.m, I don't know.
It's a ways.
I'm not that motivated.
Right. But
Yeah.
a 2-person sculling boat, would be pretty incredible to.
Oh, I think the Big Lake Rowing Club just started officially. So, yeah.
Well, you
We'll
first
go
probably
halvesies.
right,
We'll go halvesies
exactly.
on a boat.
Because a boat like that's fast, that's fun to row, would probably cost used 10,000, right?
Yeah, something like that. There's a lot of used ones for sale around here. I've looked on like Facebook Marketplace and stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I just haven't really felt like spending the money, and I also don't
Mhm.
have a great place to put it
Mhm.
yet. I'm actually currently in the process of cleaning out my garage.
Nice. Yeah.
So maybe in a week or two.
And you're looking at building a dock, aren't you?
Well, when we moved here a few years ago, we had a floating dock that was basically an island,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So you had to
sure.
like wade out to it.
Yep.
So we built a pier. So we have like a 2 or 3 year old pier that's really
Mhm.
nice that goes out to the floating dock, but we need to replace the floating dock.
Mhm.
We just got a boat lift, actually.
Nice.
I don't know if I
Okay.
told you that, but
Yeah, you
just
said that.
a week or two ago, we got a boat lift. So we're kind of like piece by piece
Mhm.
redoing the dock, but
Yeah.
it's not cheap, as you know. So
No.
the
But
floating dock is the final, piece of the puzzle.
yeah, I wonder how you would probably want to lift just for that, rowing boat, right?
Well, they're
Get it
super
out of the
lightweight,
water.
so you can just carry it up and down.
Yeah.
Like when I was in college, we would carry it from we had a waterfront area
Mhm.
at the Merchant Marine Academy, which it's actually a really amazing property.
Mhm.
It's Walter Chrysler's estate. Like, so he built his mansion there on the North Shore of Long Island to
Mhm.
watch the Chrysler building being constructed in
Wow.
Manhattan,
Pretty cool.
which was like maybe the original skyscraper in Manhattan. I'm not mistaken. This was back in like the 20s or 30s, right? So he would, I'm assuming sit in his mansion and just watch his skyscraper being built across the water, which must have been a pretty cool feeling. But yeah, when he passed away, the government bought the property in the late 30s, early 40s to open the Merchant Marine Academy because there was a desperate need for merchant mariners during World War II.
Okay.
Right. Another great movie, that Tom Hanks Greyhound movie. Did you ever watch that?
That one was excellent.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't know
right.
kind of like the Merchant Marine side of.
I want to know about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that movie does a good job. But the U-boats attacking merchant ships and all that, like it was pretty dangerous. Yeah. So the Merchant Marine Academy is in the town of Kings Point. So everyone just calls it Kings Point. I'll just do that. It's shorter.
Yeah.
Easier to say. But it's the only service academy that actually lost students during World War II. So 142, it's pretty like famous number, if you went there. But yeah, 142 midshipmen from the Merchant Marine Academy from Kings Point died on merchant ships from like U-boats and stuff during World War II. So it's a big deal there. But yeah, basically the government had a desperate need to produce, seafarers at the time. And so it's been open since like 1943, I think. And they tried to shut it down a few times because I don't think anybody really understands the school.
Right.
But it's been kind of cool lately. It's gotten like new attention from Duffy, the transportation secretary right now. He just visited there. And for whatever reason, this administration loves the Merchant Marine Academy.
Really?
So like and it's kind of crazy because literally after like decades and decades of like all of us wondering, are they going to shut this school down? Because it's under MARAD, under like the Department of Transportation. So it's kind of a unique place. It's not DOD like the other academies, or like Coast Guard is Homeland Security.
Right.
So it's always been this drama, like, will they shut the school down? It badly needs repairs. A lot of the facilities are crumbling. And just recently, for whatever reason, it got this new attention. And I think partially it's because Mark Kelly, the senator, went there.
Yep.
So
the astronaut,
senator, pretty underachieving guy.
Yeah, sure.
He's married to Gabby Giffords as well. The I guess former congresswoman. But he's been advocating for it because he went to Kings Point. So it's been really awesome to see, actually. Like it's, the alumni network is super passionate and like loves the school. And so we're all pretty excited that finally, like, they're going to throw some money at it.
Nice.
Anyway, so the waterfront's super cool because it's right on the water on Long Island. And, so we would just carry our shells from the boathouse down to the dock, dodging goose poop. Yep. Which I think about on Big Lake now because there's always
exactly
geese
the same.
Yeah, I literally think about that every time I see goose poop. I'm like, just like rowing at Kings Point.
Yeah.
But
and carrying that thing, where do they? You could store it.
Just the rowers in the boat can carry it easily. It's carbon fiber.
Yeah.
We just had racks, like slide out racks, so we put them on. So the thing to do would be to have. What I would like to do is put like a ceiling mounted sling of some sort. Yep. With like roof boxes for cars. So I would like sort of store it up there.
You could just get a cover, couldn't you? And this climate, you could store it outside in your yard and just pull it up.
I mean, if I made an investment like that, I would probably keep it indoors. And we have a big garage, so like it's just
keep it in the garage.
It's full of junk, but I would keep it in the garage
on a pulley and then just hang it up.
Something, just like
hang it up high.
Some sort of, ceiling mounted system,
But back to the Merchant Marine.
These are all pipe dreams.
Yeah, right. Totally. Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. I'd love to have a workout like that.
I think there's a lot of people on the lake
minutes.
who'd be interested.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because you're probably gassed in 30 minutes doing that, right? Be 40 minutes.
I mean, it just depends on your level of rowing fitness, right? But I would say you could get out there for an hour and get a killer workout in.
Yeah.
It's full body cardio, every muscle. just gotta be careful not to like hurt your lower back. That's what happens to a lot of people. But
Lower back.
lower
Yeah.
back injuries.
You have to have, probably perfect form. Keep
Well,
your
I
back
mean,
straight, right?
not so much perfect, but like we were talking about with like using your legs, right? Like don't try to like murder the oar with your upper body. Like it's all about that leg drive.
Yep.
And then stretching. Like when I was in college, my coach made us do yoga, which I always just thought yoga was ridiculous. Like my whole life. I mean, younger people probably don't gravitate towards yoga, I would say.
No.
Because it requires patience and,
Exactly.
maturity. But in college, I started doing yoga and it was like life changing. Like, I don't know how much yoga you've done, but like just flexibility that you gain. And
yeah, I appreciate yoga.
Yeah,
I've done it a little bit.
He knew we would like, we're a bunch of,
meatheads.
18 to 22 year old meatheads who are definitely going to like hurt ourselves if we weren't, stretched out and flexible. So
yeah, that's pretty funny to imagine you guys in yoga class.
Yeah, it's as comical as you can imagine. Like a bunch of, college age meatheads wearing spandex doing yoga. And
yeah, exactly.
Not to mention the terminology in rowing is kind of like full of innuendo too.
Yeah,
like,
totally. Yeah.
Yeah, I won't get crude on your podcast, but anybody who's curious can Google rowing terminology.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, I mean it's literally called stroking the oar,
right?
For example.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, yeah.
So the Merchant Marine Academy, we're bouncing back between rowing and Merchant Marine Academy, but the Merchant Marine Academy sounds like it produces some key individuals that are supporting our country's interests.
Yeah.
And our as we ferry products across the Atlantic and the Pacific. Is that correct?
Yeah. No, it's a huge deal for national security, I think. Like it's about 2/3 of the graduates go into the Merchant Marine maritime industry, working on ships. Third mates, third engineers, ships officers, basically like either in charge of the deck, the navigation of the ship, or the engine room, and that type of thing.
And they're
when
working.
You get a Coast Guard license, you have to take like a Coast Guard license exam, and so that's about 2/3 of the graduates go work on our merchant ships. Which there's a thing called the Jones Act, which is it mandates that a certain number of ships are built in the U.S. and crewed by U.S. Mariners, which is more expensive, right? So like over the years, we've kind of gotten away from that as a maritime industry because it's cheaper to like flag a ship in a foreign country and hire foreign labor. They just typically most countries like don't pay their seafarers and their mariners as much as we do in the U.S. And there's fewer regulations and things like that. So seems like a thing that, positive thing this administration is focusing on is like bringing, more shipbuilding, more trying to produce more, mariners domestically, which is a huge national security concern because if there was ever a conflict, we have all these ships that, a lot of people don't realize, like it's like the ready reserve fleet, right? Where if we need to mobilize and take a bunch of stuff overseas for whatever reason, that's how it would happen. You would mobilize all these ships and reservists, a lot of like Navy reservists would work on the ships to get that stuff where it needs to go.
Right.
Like in any war, any conflict, a lot of the stuff travels by sea, because it's super expensive and it's not all that much room on an airplane. Right.
Right.
But on ships, you can take a ton of stuff, economy of scale. So that's a big deal. And then about 1/3 of the graduates go active duty in the military, which is what I did. So like, I think the product that taxpayers get for their money is about as good of a return on investment as you can ask for as a taxpayer, in my opinion. So,
and where did you go to pilot training?
Texas, Laughlin.
That's exactly where I went.
Oh, you were in Del Rio too? Yeah. What year did you graduate?
Did you go out to eat at Julio's? Was that across the street?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that place will never close. Yeah, great chips. Great chips.
I know there's a lot of MSG in those chips, though.
Oh, yeah. That's what makes it so tasty. Yeah, it's a secret ingredient.
I got to look. I think I was
11, 14. So I graduated in 2011.
11, 14. Okay. I want to say I was Was I 02?
Sure. 2002. Okay.
Maybe I was later in 2002. But yeah,
So you were probably 02, 15 or 16 or something.
I think maybe 0216 sounds
I
about right.
graduated in September. So I was the 14th, I guess, class of 2011.
Okay.
Yeah, after college, went to I was super lucky, got a pilot training spot in the Air Force, and went to Laughlin, beautiful Del Rio by the sea.
I remember it. Yeah.
We like to say.
So they say Del Rio by the sea because everyone thinks it's on the ocean.
I don't know, or maybe it's because of Lake Amistad is right there. It's actually a really nice lake, like surprisingly nice lake.
So they think border towns, so they're like, "Oh yeah, great, it's on the ocean." And
I think it's a joke because it's nowhere near the ocean. So people just say like beautiful scenic Del Rio by the sea, which it's not a bad place, but definitely not the most exciting town when you're like 22.
No, but did they have a marina at Lake Amistad?
There's like an Air Force, or at least there used to be an Air Force marina there. I heard they closed it.
Really?
But they had boats you could rent.
Yeah, I remember.
I had a boat. My boat that I grew up with. I took it down there.
You did?
During pilot training. So yeah, on the weekends we would go out on the lake, on Lake Amistad. It was great.
So did you have to get it from Albuquerque or
Santa
Fe?
I towed it down from Albuquerque to Del Rio, and I just had it down there during pilot training, which was actually really nice because it was like outside of like driving to San Antonio, it was like the one really awesome thing you could do on the weekends to kind of just like decompress was go spend Saturday on the lake and
totally relax,
and then Sunday it was like back to work.
Yeah, did they have wakeboarding or water skiing? Did you ever do that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I grew up actually. I mean, Big Lake was I think where I learned, but wakeboarding and water skiing, and we, my family, we would go to different lakes around New Mexico and Southwest growing up. But then every summer we would come up to Big Lake for family reunion in July, and we would go out on the Sound, like Puget Sound, camping on the San Juans, and pretty much why I live here is because I grew up doing all that, and I kind of fell in love with the area.
I agree. I agree. We live in such a beautiful area.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, for like 4 months of the year, but
yeah, I mean, I was in Arizona just last weekend, and
what is it, 120 already?
Yeah, it's the landscape is not very inspiring. There's not as much chlorophyll or trees as we have. The water is disgusting. The tap water is pretty rough. That's why everyone drinks bottled water there.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta love the heat. You gotta love the wide open spaces. Which I mean, I grew up in Albuquerque, and I love that place. It's beautiful in its own way. Yeah, but I always like personally gravitated towards like the water and the trees and the mountains.
Yeah, I enjoyed my time in Phoenix.
That was F-16 training.
Yeah, exactly. Luke in Glendale. But I can find 1,000 things to appreciate up here. When I first flew to this area, I couldn't believe it was so beautiful. It was like the New Zealand of the United States.
It really is. Like, Northwest and Alaska, which I was super lucky to get stationed in Alaska for a few years in Anchorage. And it's similar to here. It's like, I always say it's like Western Washington, but on a bigger scale, everything's just bigger. The animals, the mountains, the distance between things, but it's just kind of isolated. So we had a house there in Anchorage. We, thought about moving back there, but
really,
a
lot of pilots
we loved
live
it.
in Anchorage.
Yeah, I mean FedEx, UPS, Alaska, like you can.
I heard Anchorage played a huge role. They play a huge role in global shipping because they're like over the pole. It's a stop-off point
in between like Asia and North America or Europe. It's like halfway, I think, roughly. Yeah, I mean I have a lot of friends who are pilots up there, working for various companies. I was just there last week on a layover, actually. Oh, really? Yeah, on a Delta trip. We loved it, but it was just so isolated. My dad's from Burlington. I have a lot of family around here, and we had the opportunity to, take over our family property on Big Lake, and so that was like a pretty easy decision, really.
You were like, pass that up.
Well, I mean, it hasn't been easy. It's been a lot of work, a lot of money, but labor of love.
Right.
Big Lake is a special place, as you know. Like between May and September, October, roughly, depending on the year. You can't beat it.
No, it's hard to find lakefront property in Pacific Northwest with everything in the from the spring, and then we also have like a late summer. It doesn't seem to get started until July, but it goes all the way through October.
Well, the joke up here is summer doesn't start till July 5th, right?
Yeah,
because
yep, I know
fireworks displays will get rained out, and then the next day it's beautiful.
Yeah,
yeah. It was my college roommate's birthday party in Dallas. I was having this conversation with the guy who was we were at his place, like the party was at his place. He went to UW in Seattle, and he was like, yeah, like it's beautiful up there, but he was like, one year I was on Lake Washington or Lake Union for a fireworks display on July 4th.
Mm-hmm.
It was freezing and raining, and they canceled the show.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided to move to Dallas.
Yeah.
It was just kind of a funny story, and I get it. Like I get why people just get tired of the rain and the clouds. But
yeah, for me, it's February. I think that's a tough month. That's where I'm like
late winter. It starts to get to you, but you're gaining daylight by February, so it's like
I think I'm checking the weather app every day, and I'm like, woo, we gained like 2 minutes of daylight today, or 3 minutes.
Yeah, things you don't do in like Southern California.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love snow sports, and in my opinion, like you got to be into snow sports if you live here.
It is a winter survival plan, isn't it?
Right. Otherwise, I don't know what you do all winter.
Yeah.
But if you ski or snowboard, it's one of the best places in the world to do that. Right.
Yeah, a clear day at Mount Baker is insane.
Oh, man, which is rare.
It is. Yeah, but the background. It looks like Switzerland there.
Oh yeah.
It's really steep and
like Alpental. Have you ever been to Alpental on a clear day? I mean, yeah, it's literally like the Alps. It's unbelievably beautiful.
Yeah.
But it's rare. But I don't know. Maybe you appreciate it more because it's like a little bit more rare.
Right. The North Cascades, the Cascade Mountain Range is different than the Rocky Mountains. They have definitely a distinct
Yeah,
shape.
more rugged.
Yeah.
I think they're younger, right?
Yeah, they're younger.
Because like the Rockies are older, more rounded. Like the Appalachians are like super old. And
right.
Just weathered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Over a gazillion years,
roughly.
Rocks change.
Give or take.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love it here.
I think we talked about climbing Mount Baker.
Yeah, we've both done that.
We've both done that. Yeah. I just did it last summer.
I mean, that's like one of the ultimate examples to me of like how amazing this place is. I was on top of Mount Baker, which is not like the craziest mountain in the world. I don't want to make it sound like I'm climbing Everest or whatever, but it's an ordeal. It's a big mountain. And I was in my own bed that night. Like I literally went from the top of Mount Baker to sleeping at home in the same day.
Yep.
Which I don't know how many places in the world you can be on top of an active volcano, 11,000 feet up, and then be in your own bed at night.
Yeah, that climb was way more than I bargained for.
It's not easy.
No. It
But
was a challenge.
I don't know. I guess we've been talking about doing hard things. I mean, you got to keep challenging yourself, right?
The hardest part for me, other than like hiking up soft snow, which is like trying to climb up 11,000 feet of like sand.
Right. It's harder if it's warmer.
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
Each step is like way more work.
Exactly, because you're basically smashing the snow. So your steps, you probably net 6 inches sometimes each step instead of an effective step on hard ground.
Yeah, it takes more steps to get to the top for sure. Was it pretty warm when you guys climbed it?
Yeah, it was pretty warm. It was warm enough where the snow was soft. But coming down, I can see why people.
It's kind of fun coming down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Coming down the snow was wonderful.
When it's soft like that.
Yeah.
Glissading, right? Yeah. Slide
we
down
stayed overnight, so we had a 50-pound pack that we had to carry down from base camp.
Right. We spent one night up there. Yeah. You guys did one night or two?
Just one.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. So, but that was rough. Carrying the pack.
It is rough.
On hard ground, coming back down each step.
Yeah. If you do 2 nights, it's a lot more relaxed. But,
is it?
Well, yeah. We had the option. We had a guide from Bellingham. We had the option of like staying another night at base camp after summiting.
Yeah, you're right. That would have been easier.
Yeah, but my friend wanted to get home. He had to like go to work, pretty shortly after that. So
Yeah.
honestly, as cool as it is to like say I was like in my own bed that night, I probably would have rather just spent another night up there to recover. But it was nice to get home.
Yeah, because you don't get much sleep, right? And you're like, it's a long day to come
Well,
down.
no, because you got to wake up at like 1 or 2 in the morning to start climbing.
Yeah, I've heard some people will wake up really early, and drive from their house and then climb the whole thing in one day.
Yeah, a lot of those people are like skiing or boarding down too, because it's a lot quicker, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think I've heard you can park in the lot there by like Baker Lake, probably 6 or 7 in the morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Climb up, ski down, and you can be done by the afternoon. But I think that's only possible if like the snow goes down far enough, right? So it's got to be like more early season, probably like May, maybe June. And yeah, you got to either ski or split board, which is also, I think, quicker for climbing, right? Like skinning up, which kind of want to do someday. I did a lot of split boarding in Alaska, when we lived there. But
do you think that would be faster than crampons on snow?
Yeah, I think so.
Going uphill with skins?
Yeah, because you're sliding versus walking.
Yeah, and you stay on the top of the snow, right?
Stay on the top of the snow. I think it's less work overall, like more efficient, right? You're kind of like, you can like zigzag up, Yeah. And I'm assuming there's probably pretty well-established tracks on like Baker. Like Baker and Rainier, like there's a huge, backcountry community, which I would like to do. I mean, I don't know. As you know, like when you have kids and jobs and stuff, it gets harder. But yeah, a lot of people I've seen up there, I tend to think like a lot of them probably either their kids are grown or
they've never had kids.
Or they're younger. It just takes a lot of time and flexibility to do something like that.
Yeah, they can focus their attention on that.
Not to mention like the fitness level to just like on a whim be like, I'm gonna climb up Baker today and ski down. Like, it takes a lot of continued exercise.
You're right too. It has to probably be earlier in the season because then there's fewer crevasse.
Well, to ski down, because the snow level rises pretty quickly after, I don't know. I mean, probably right around now.
Yeah.
Now would be the time. After this, you want to go?
Yeah, let's do it.
But I think like May or June is when, the snow level starts to like rise pretty quickly. What month did you guys climb it?
Oh, shoot. I thought it was June.
Yeah, like June, July, like you're hiking on dirt for quite a ways.
Early June.
Right? I think like April, May, you can almost ski down to the parking lot.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So who knows, maybe next year.
Yeah. What do they call that? Railroad grade? That's where you're on that ridge and there's a big glacier wash. It's probably full of snow.
Yeah, I don't remember that one. There's like 3 or 4 different routes you can take.
Yeah, we went up the Roman Wall.
Well, I think everyone does the Roman Wall ultimately, but the approach to there, I think there's 2 or 3 different routes. There's like the Easton Glacier.
That's the one we did.
I think that's the most popular one. We came from the north near Baker Lake, which I forget the name of that route.
Okay, but, that's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, we came from the south.
Right. There's different approaches, and I think the Roman Wall, there's no getting around that. That's near the summit where it's like super steep. Yeah.
I think if you come from the north, don't you have to like kind of hook around to the Roman Wall and then up?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We kind of just followed a ridge line all the way up, and then I don't remember like hooking around per se.
Did you ever see the rim of the volcano?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
that was wild.
Wall. Yeah.
Yeah, there's few things crazier than looking down into the caldera of an active volcano.
It is.
Really.
Yeah.
Puts things into perspective.
Yeah, I enjoy looking at Mount Baker differently now.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't really understand it when I saw it,
Well, you don't think of it as an active volcano.
Right. No.
Until you're looking down into the caldera.
Yeah.
It's active.
Yep.
It's, like
it's
actively, like the sulfur, rotten egg smell and steaming.
Right.
Yeah, we were like, looking over. Our guide was like, all right, that's close enough.
Yeah, it was pretty steep.
Yeah. No, you could easily like fall down into there.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think like Baker's pretty benign. I don't think very many people have died on the way up. Apparently, it's like on the top where people have passed away
Really?
because they let their guard down and they just fall off.
Really?
Yeah, that's what our guide was saying.
Okay.
Which is
off the other side, maybe the north side.
Just when you're on the summit, like not paying attention, or maybe people peeking in the caldera. I don't know, but
I've heard we've lost some people on some other hikes. The Pilchuck, you heard of that? Have you ever done that one?
No.
It's a 5-hour hike, but it's pretty steep.
I've heard about it.
And you have to do some bouldering. But there's a lookout.
Yeah, it's like a fire tower, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the top. And there is a 1,000-foot cliff there, right next to the lookout. Yeah, so just getting to the lookout, the last 20 yards, is pretty gnarly.
Are there like ropes or chains or anything?
No, you have to like boulder it. But
sounds sketchy.
It is. Yeah.
Sounds like 3 Peaks on Oahu. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't done that one.
Have you heard about it though? There's like this famous hike where you like park at a golf course on Oahu.
Okay.
It's super popular, but there's literally 3 peaks. And the first peak is not bad.
Yeah.
The second peak is a little bit sketchy, but I wouldn't say like too, life threatening. The third peak, like when you're on top of peak 2, I'll show you a picture after this, but third peak is just by itself, like sheer walls. So to like climb the third peak, you're literally just no ropes. Maybe there's ropes, I don't know, but you're not like officially belaying or anything. You're just like climbing with your hands and feet up this like sheer, slippery Hawaiian mountain. And a lot of people have died on peak 3.
Wow.
That's what it sounds like, kind of.
Well, there's probably...
I've never done peak 3. I've gone to peak 2 and I was like, I'm good.
That's it, huh?
Yeah.
You're like, I'm good.
I got kids. I don't want to go out this way.
Well, I shouldn't. I mean, Pilchuck late in the season, like July, it'd be great. I mean, even Luke was 9 or maybe 6, and he went up with us.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's safe.
You just gotta be careful.
Yeah, I think probably the dangerous part is when you're there before the snow melts.
Yeah.
And people
Slippery.
are bouldering, and there's some ice on the boulder, and they slip off the boulder.
Yeah, I mean, mountaineering is dangerous. Like, you just got to like keep in mind that safety margin.
Yeah.
Like if you ever get to the point where it's like, if you're thinking to yourself, this is unsafe.
Yeah.
It's probably time to turn around.
Yeah. We just lost
That's a lot of people die is they keep going when they shouldn't.
Right.
Honestly.
Or they're a little tired.
Or they're tired, or they're alone, which definitely in the backcountry, like in Alaska, a lot of the people who would die in avalanches would just be alone. So yeah, just never go out alone.
Right. Yeah. Make sure you get somebody to call.
Remember that, kids.
Yeah.
Or at least have like a satellite phone or something. But I mean, if you get like buried in an avalanche or something, like if you're with friends, they can try to find
within
you,
about 2 minutes. You can dig somebody out.
But if you're by yourself,
right?
Gotta look.
Yeah, there was a snowboarder that did
at
you see
Baker,
that video?
Yeah,
at Baker.
Yeah, that was a super famous video. That was, I mean, talk about like luck.
I know,
man.
Yeah,
that
was so cool.
That guy definitely, I think, had some divine intervention that day.
Totally.
Like, I mean, he was head first into a tree wall,
and
barely visible.
Was his board.
Yeah, but he could barely even see his board, but just, literally just by chance, a skier was going by and saw his board, and he was like, crap, that's the wrong side of a snowboarder.
Right.
And had the presence of mind to like dig him out quick. I mean, anybody who's been up to Baker and the side country around there, like there's, especially late season, there's serious tree walls.
Yeah, and that's not even an avalanche, Oh
no, but tree walls, like in the Northwest, tree walls are a big deal.
Right.
Like Colorado, you don't get that as much, right? Or like Utah, because they don't have the snowpack. But
yeah, I wonder about technology. I wonder about
trees are different up here.
Right. Like if there's something you could jettison, like on your vest, carry with you,
Well,
for a
they
tree
make
well?
airbag packs, which I had one in Alaska.
For an avalanche, right?
Yeah, but
Keeps you on top of it,
right,
of the flow.
right. So in a tree well, it probably wouldn't do much. They do. I've heard about these things. They
Mhm.
just started selling recently, which are like um, where you can like breathe out of the snowpack.
Yeah.
So it's like a tube,
Yep.
and it'll just be like next to your head.
Yep.
So if you find yourself under the snow,
You can hopefully you have one arm. That
even if your arms are not
Mhm.
able to move, you can like reach your head over and, breathe through this hose, and it like literally pulls air out of the snowpack,
Really?
and it buys you however much time. So
Yeah.
that could work in a tree well.
Yeah. I wonder if there's oxygen. Oxygen is pretty heavy in its gaseous form,
Mm.
But what about like, I don't know if you could like, basically, it would be tough and pretty expensive to like have carry a tank with you
Yeah.
and then some kind of alarm just to extend
Yeah.
to like 6 hours even.
Yeah. It'd be heavy.
Mhm.
I don't know. They have the airbag packs. They have the breathing tubes.
Yeah.
I actually it's like a vest backpack thing. They're getting pretty popular now, or
Mhm.
it's just more comfortable to wear than a backpack. But
Mhm.
mine has like an airbag you can
Mhm.
take in and out. And it basically just has like I think it's like a CO2
Yep.
cylinder that deploys it.
Yep.
And you just have to like refill the CO2 cylinder, or they have battery powered ones,
Mhm.
which are nice because you don't have to like,
Right.
refill the cylinder.
That's the right idea though, a tube, because there's no moving parts.
The tube is cool. It doesn't keep you on top of the snow as much. And I think the airbag is supposed to protect your head and neck too. Like if you're getting tumbled around in an avalanche, like it'll
And there's debris that's floating around
protect you from like a rock, or they say I think it increases your chances of survival by like 50% or something. But man, if you're caught in an avalanche, like full tilt, I don't know. That's when you start praying, where you're like,
Yeah, a friend of mine has.
You don't know what's going to happen. If
Yeah.
you go off a cliff,
Sure.
you don't know how deep you're going to get buried.
Well, one danger is there's, tree trunks that
Sure.
are flying by you.
Or tree trunks that are downhill from you that you can get,
Yep.
that stop your fall real quick.
Yeah, you get bent around a tree trunk.
Yeah.
And in between you and your spine.
Yeah, I mean, not a place you want to be. That's why I haven't really been in the backcountry for a while, because I don't know. It's my risk tolerance has gotten lower and lower as I've gotten older and had kids. And
Yeah.
you know how it goes. It's like these things are fun, right? But it's like risk reward. Like there's a lot of ways to have fun.
Totally.
That are a lot safer.
As you get older, there's more at stake, right? You've got more to lose.
Yeah.
When you're younger, nothing to lose. You're just less at stake.
Different mentality too. Yeah. I got to do all that stuff when I was younger, and who knows? I mean, I have friends and cousins who get out in the backcountry, and even your one, what's her name? Who you climb Baker with?
Montana.
Yeah, Montana. Yeah, she does a ton of mountaineering, and
Yeah, she just got
every time
certified.
I come in, she's like, "Oh, you should volunteer at the Bellingham, mountain rescue place." And it'd be fun to get into that, but between kids' sports and I have 2 jobs, 2 kids,
Right.
yeah, a property that's pretty demanding. It's like there's only so much time.
Yeah, but we should get out to Pilchuck with the family. We could do
That'd be
that.
fun.
That'd
Yeah.
be easy to do.
Yeah, I'd be nervous taking Emma up there. You said Luke was 6 though.
How old's Emma?
She's 6.
Okay.
She's just, 6-year-olds don't necessarily have the most common sense sometimes. So
let's read about it.
I would take Liam for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe just Liam and Luke.
Right. Yeah, that would work.
Emma has a mind of her own. She'll decide she wants to do something and take off. She's the one we worry about.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We always joke like she's the one we're gonna have to worry about. Liam's not, he's not flawless, but he's more. He's definitely more like thoughtful before doing things. Sometimes too much, but
Yeah, it seems like he's got a stronger sense of self-preservation.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, Emma's just like, leap before looking. Yeah, she's full send all the time, which is a lot of fun. Like she's super fun to like be around.
Yeah.
You know, like she'll go jump in the lake with me whenever. You know.
Really?
Yeah, just right now. I mean, it's not all that warm right now, but
she doesn't care.
She'll be like, "Yeah, let's go swim," and Liam will be like, he'll just start thinking, like, "Oh, the water's cold, it's cloudy, it's windy." He just
what's the plan?
He talks himself out of it. Like we got this. The best example recently, we got this puppy, this golden retriever puppy, and like we surprised the kids after school. The puppy was in the car. We picked them up. They don't know it's in the car. They get in, and Emma like freaks out. She loves animals. She's like, "Oh, it's a puppy. Like, is it ours? Are we keeping it? Is it real?" She's like losing her mind, hugging it. Like what you would expect when you buy your kids a puppy. And then Liam's just sitting in his chair. He's just staring at the puppy. And his first question, like just stone face, is, "Does it shed?" Like a 9-year-old. Like what? He should be just overjoyed to have a puppy. And of course, like later in the day, he was already in love with the dog, and he's great with the dog.
Yeah.
Now he takes her out in the mornings and stuff, but yeah, he's just very like, analytical.
Older kids have, they've got that sense of responsibility.
Yeah, it's just I'm kind of that way too, though. And like,
yeah,
I think he takes after me. Emma's more just lives in the moment.
Right.
But anyway. Yeah, no, that'd be fun. It'd be fun to get out and do. Last summer we were gone so much.
Really?
Yeah, we were just gone a lot. Just traveling. But this summer I would love to do just more like hiking, just be on the lake more. And we kind of got traveled out last year.
Did you?
Which is a total first world problem.
Right.
I get it.
Let's stay home.
But I'm an airline pilot. I have these benefits where we can go travel.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's tempting. It's hard not to. Like,
where'd you guys go? Do you remember?
Well, we did a big Europe trip. So
yeah, that'll take it out of you.
Yeah. It did. I mean, it was amazing, but it's a lot of work with kids, right? Jet lag. Jet lag is tough to begin with.
I think you told me you took a ferry.
Well, that was this year.
Okay.
Yeah. We've done a big trip to Europe each of the past 2 years. And I mean, it's amazing. We love Europe. We've always loved going there. Like we did our honeymoon in Europe. We absolutely love it. But it's, as you get older and you have kids, it's like becomes pretty taxing. But I have a classmate who lives in London. He's stationed there, and so we stayed with them each of our trips actually. So last year we were flying standby, so the flight to London was full. We ended up flying to Paris and taking the train to London, which was an adventure. That was a long day. And then we hung out in London for a few days, went down to Southampton, which is a port in southern England. We did a cruise out of Southampton to Portugal and Spain, kind of like around, counterclockwise, hitting a bunch of ports along the way, which was amazing for sure. And ended in Barcelona, spent a few days in Barcelona, and then we went to Paris right before the Olympics, which was cool, seeing all the Olympics set up. Yeah. The Olympic rings on the Eiffel Tower and all that. We all climbed the Eiffel Tower together. It was pretty awesome.
Climbing the Eiffel Tower?
Yeah, we climbed up the stairs, The kids raced to the top. It was, well, you can't go to the top, but you can go to the, like 2/3 of the way up.
Do they have an elevator or not?
They do, but you can have the option to take the stairs. Right?
Okay, so is there tickets for either one?
Yeah. So our kids love climbing stuff. So they were like,
yeah,
let's race up. And then we flew home from Paris. So it was a big trip.
Mine's coming up. I think
you're going
3
to
weeks.
Southern France, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Excited?
So that just reminded me. Yeah, I got to figure out tickets for climbing the stairs.
We did a tour.
Okay.
So I would recommend that because you meet a guide, they coordinate everything, and then they talk about the history, and it was actually really fun. So
do they climb it with you?
Yeah. And they do it like 2 or 3 times a day. So these guys are in like phenomenal
Sherpas,
shape. Yeah, they are like Eiffel Tower Sherpas. Yeah. But it was really great. And it wasn't that expensive either. So
okay, I want to do that.
Yeah, just Google.
I want to get that from you.
Climb. Yeah, remind me. I'll send it to you. But
we got some other things planned, like cooking class and.
That'll be fun.
and like a dinner cruise.
I would like to do more of that type of stuff. Those aren't really like kid friendly activities.
Yeah.
That's the challenge in Europe with kids is like, there's all these things you want to do, but it's like kids don't want to do a, gourmet French cooking class.
Right.
Or
unless they're like
a dinner
high school
cruise.
senior,
Yeah. And even then, who knows?
Right. Exactly. Well, I'm going with Franny. She's a senior.
Yeah.
And so it's her senior trip kind of.
Southern France mostly, right?
Mostly, yeah. It's 2 nights in London, 2 nights in Paris, and then 4 nights in Nice.
It's not going to suck.
No.
Yeah, I gave you a bunch of London
recommendations.
Yeah.
Now, I got to look at those text messages from you and you're like really get serious about it because I got the hotel now. And
you don't want to overplan either. Like you
right.
want to just have like 1, maybe 2 things each day you want to hit and then just leave time to explore,
That's the best. You're right.
It is the best. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially in a city like London or Paris, like just walking around, it's unbelievable what you can stumble across,
Totally.
Yeah.
Except for Iceland, because Iceland doesn't have enough hotel rooms.
Well, it's a different scale. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I think there's more people in like one neighborhood of London than all of Iceland.
Exactly. So
yeah. Nothing against Iceland. I would love to go.
We thought we would just play it by ear in Iceland, and then we were like, where are we going to stay tonight? And everything's booked.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine in a less populated place. But I mean, London has like probably more hotels than any city in the world. So you could totally wing it there. But you want to at least have like a hotel booked. Right. You want a place to like sleep. And everything else you can pretty much wing it. Yeah, I would not go without a hotel.
Right.
So hopefully you at least have a hotel booked.
Yeah.
Did you got accommodations already?
Yeah, we got something set up everywhere we're at.
Nice.
And
hotels or Airbnbs or?
It's hotels.
Yeah. Hotels are nice there.
There's a travel company that I totally recommend. We're working with a gal named Deborah. She's been wonderful. And there's a travel app. So it's all kind of organized on the app.
Oh, yeah. You mentioned that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You don't think about travel agents anymore, but still going strong.
Yep.
Yes, huh?
Yep. There is a place for it. She's been to all these places.
Which is key. Yeah.
Yeah. She's going to help us out a lot. I'm really looking forward to it. That's the next big one.
Yeah. It's going to be incredible. I've never been to southern France, just like on the train.
Mm-hmm.
We took the train from Barcelona to Paris and such beautiful, countryside. I remember we saw like flamingos everywhere, like
really?
White flamingos.
Wow.
Who knew? Like things you don't think about or hear about, but like
basically tropical there, huh?
Kind of.
The San Diego of Europe.
Yeah. I think the weather is probably kind of like Southern California, like, south of France. I've read a lot of articles by travel writers who say it's their favorite place in the world, south of France. I mean, it's pretty famous, right? Like, but Cannes or whatever, the film festival, Marseille, Nice, the Riviera. I mean, I've heard about it. I've just never been. So look forward to hearing a review.
Yeah, Franny wants to run every day. So, and she's going to be running 6 to 8 miles a day.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been on a lot of vacations where I pack my running shoes and I'm like, I'm going to run, and I get to the end of it. I'm like, I didn't use my running shoes.
I didn't really run at all.
Well, and the thing in Europe is you walk so much.
Yeah, that's true.
So like we typically walk 5 to 10 miles a day, I would say on average, whenever we go to Europe,
Mm-hmm. You're walking around cities a lot.
Yeah. It's not a relaxing vacation, but you're getting your steps in. So like, I mean, obviously she's like a competitive runner, but I mean, you're going to get enough walking in, like she could probably take a couple days.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so too. I hope so, because she can run way more than I can.
Yeah. I mean, we did some days probably. Man, I'm trying to remember how many steps, but 20,000 plus step days. Just like big days.
I'm not used to that.
No. Well, you gotta like train.
Oh.
You have to train for being in a European city. We don't walk in America.
Right.
We drive everywhere. Unless you live in like Manhattan. There's a few places in America where like you can walk a lot, but by and large, we're a driving society, right?
Right.
Why we have so many overweight people.
Oh yeah, it's clear that
fast food
you
and
find out in the airport when you come back. like, oh yeah, you can tell the difference.
You can. I mean, there's overweight people in Europe too, but they just walk more. I
Mhm.
think maybe the diet is healthier
Mhm.
overall. They, they have more regulations with their food there too, which
Mhm.
I think lately that's kind of come more into focus, right? Like
Yeah,
the whole like Maha thing and all that. Like
totally.
we've been, at least the public conversation has been
Mhm.
better, which
Yeah.
like I just heard In and Out is getting rid of the red dye in their food,
Mhm.
for example, which
Well,
is
didn't it
good.
become illegal? Red dye?
I don't know if it is in the whole US. I
Okay.
know like in Europe it is. I think
Yeah.
Canada sh- probably should be.
Mhm.
I'm not a food scientist, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll
I
adapt
think
to.
it's pretty famously not good for you, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and
yeah,
it shouldn't be a political thing. It sounds like something that we can all agree on.
no. I mean, what could be more like bipartisan than just not poisoning ourselves,
Yeah, right.
eating healthy? Yeah. Hey, you guys are gonna have a great time. Sure.
Yeah, we're gonna be probably only a walking tour of London. Paris
Yeah.
will have a little bit more time. Have you ever heard of Lyon?
Yeah.
We're gonna be there for one night.
Yeah. Never been, but I think we just like stopped there on the train, but we didn't
Yeah,
get off.
yeah, we're gonna do that. We're just gonna have an afternoon there and get back on the train in the morning.
I think that might be like the second biggest city in France or something.
Is it?
Yeah. I could be wrong. Yeah, I mean you can't go wrong. We've done 4 or 5 Europe trips now, and yeah, we've never been somewhere we didn't enjoy. I
Mhm.
mean, some places more than others, but
Have you ever been to south of Italy, the Italian Riviera?
no, never south of Rome. So
Okay.
we've done Italy 3 times, but we've never been south of Rome.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like the Amalfi Coast and all that. I would love to go. That's why I was trying to, go work in Germany for a while, right? So
Oh
we could
yeah.
like easily travel around. But
You still waiting on that?
yeah, just waiting to hear. But it would be awesome just to be like based in Europe and, just on a long weekend, you could go down to the Amalfi Coast, right?
Mm.
Like to go from Seattle to Italy it's a
Mm.
lot. Takes you 2 or 3 days just to recover once you get there, right?
Is that a 3-year tour or one?
Oh, it would be kind of like fluid,
Mhm.
but probably a year at a time. But yeah, I don't know. Right. I mean, right now it's just a weird time to it's a weird time to be a reservist.
Is it?
Well, it's just like with funding and everything else. Like
Okay.
nobody really knows like what's gonna have money allocated.
You're right. There's a lot of uncertainty right now in the federal government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like any administration that comes in, like things change and
Mhm.
there's a period of uncertainty. So
Right.
I
Tell me
mean,
about the planes that you flew again. I can't remember. It was T6 with me, Laughlin. I was a T37,
yeah, yeah.
and then T1.
Yeah, so they start you out in the DA-20,
Mhm.
and that's in Pueblo, Colorado. So the first plane you learn how to fly.
Mhm.
Then you go to Maine undergraduate pilot training, which T6, and the T1, which they're actually retiring the T1. It's a
Are they
little,
really?
I think so. Yeah, it's a
So.
beach 400,
Mhm.
little kind of business jet type
Mhm.
plane. So I went the T1 track
Mhm.
because I was kind of interested more in doing like cargo type flying. And then, yeah, I was lucky enough to get to fly C-17s, which I'm still doing part
Wow.
time. Um,
Cool.
not
That's the
not
one.
not very often nowadays, but yeah. I've been flying the C-17 this whole time, and then I
And where
left
the
active
C.
duty a
Yeah.
few years ago and went to work for Delta. So,
Okay, I see. So C-17 is where are the bases for the C-17?
pretty much coastal. So the
Mhm.
training base is in Oklahoma,
Mhm.
but up and down the coast.
Mhm.
So McCord here in Washington, Tacoma, Travis in California.
Mhm.
My reserve base is down in the LA area. Um, and then you have like Jersey, Delaware, South Carolina. There's guard and reserve bases all over. But the active duty bases are coastal because
Okay.
the planes basically take off from the coast and go overseas.
Mhm.
So,
And the big cargo
yeah.
door on the C-17 is in the back, right?
Yeah.
Are they
Yeah.
still flying the C-5?
Oh yeah. Yeah. The one where the nose opens up. Yeah. C5 still going strong. Yeah. They put new engines on them. So they're, I've heard they're more reliable than C17s now.
Really?
The joke was always like C5s break all the time.
Yeah. Because C17's newer, isn't it?
It is a lot newer, but they've gotten beaten up a lot.
Yeah.
Past like 20, 30 years, they've just gotten blown so much.
Oh, yeah.
You know, in the Middle East too, which is like really hard on airplanes, you know, desert,
dust,
sun. Yeah. So heat, right? So like all things that are hard on airplanes. So yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. I mean, a lot different type of flying than you did, but it's like an amazingly capable airplane considering its size, you know, because the C-17 has all these like electronic, you know, modes and like ways to augment the flaps, and
really,
it has these things called spoilers, right? Which a lot of people don't probably know about, but like the spoilers have all these modes that effectively make it fly like a smaller airplane, you know?
Really?
So like it can maneuver better, stop in a shorter distance, you know, descend better, stuff like that. Like it has all these modes you can activate to sort of make it feel like a smaller airplane.
That's crazy. I saw it. I was in the gorge. I watched a C-17 on a low level.
Like at a concert?
Not at a concert, just traveling, you know?
Like
between,
there's a route that goes
right through there,
right through the Columbia River gorge.
And I saw a C-17 below me.
Yeah, we can get down to 300 feet AGL, you know, which pretty low.
It looked like they were having a good time.
Yeah, it's fun.
Have you done those?
Yeah, I've done that exact low level. Yeah, it's pretty exciting being at like 300 feet in a, you know, pretty big airplane. Yeah, I mean the wingspan of C-17 is like 170 feet, so you're basically 2 wingspans above the ground. It's low.
Great.
But yeah, I mean, the reason why we do that training is because like if you had to go into a hostile environment, fly low, right? Theoretically, harder to see that way.
Either really low or really high, right?
Really low or really high, yeah, depending.
I mean, you can't get high enough to outrun sand.
No, I mean, there's, especially nowadays, there's so many crazy threats out there. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, things we can't talk about in too much detail.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's, you practice all these things, and you know, you hope if you're ever doing the real thing or you're in combat, you're like, you have the skills to do whatever tactics to stay safe. Yeah.
So when you sign up for the pilot commitment, that's 8 years, right?
10 years.
10 years now.
Yeah, 10 years after pilot training.
I think, okay.
Was it different for you? Or?
I thought it was 8. But
they keep making it more and more. I think there was some talk about making it like 15 or something.
Maybe, you know, I don't know. It depends on.
I mean,
but you'd have to have a pretty sweet deal to make it 15.
Yeah, I mean, you almost look too good.
Yeah.
You you know, you're an expensive government asset by the time you're done with pilot training.
Yeah, right.
They want to get their money's worth out of you. And I think it costs over $1 million to train a pilot or something.
Per person, right?
Per person.
I can totally see that.
Roughly.
At least that. I mean, depending on, I'm sure it's different per airplane. No, but
I think just to get through pilot training.
Yeah, just the.
I think just because of the jet fuel
undergraduate
and,
pilot training. Right?
You know, the amount of fuel, and I don't know. It's not a cheap thing to do, fly airplanes.
Right. $1 million education.
Something like that. I mean, that's.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if it was even more than that.
I've heard that anecdotally, but yeah, I mean, it's becoming more like in simulators and stuff. So it might be cheaper now.
You're right. They do
because they have like the VR goggles now and stuff like that.
They can replace some flying time with simulator time. They're trying to eat away at flying time.
I think they're replacing a lot of flying time with simulator time, which has been kind of controversial. Like a lot of people think they're, you know, the product is not as good because
they've gone too far.
Well, because you just can't fully replicate flying an airplane.
Right.
Like simulators are amazing now. You know, the goggles and the virtual reality, but there's no substitute for being in an actual airplane. it's
Yeah, I'm sure the Air Force has budgets, and they try to they probably have some different trade-offs. We could train one more pilot versus like two pilots instead of one,
yeah,
and get two pilots instead of one for the same price.
yeah. I mean, there's people who are smarter about it than I am, but there's a lot of budgetary
Mhm.
constraints nowadays. I mean,
Mhm.
it's hard to believe because the
Yeah.
DoD budget is so massive, but
Right.
we're not in a huge conflict right now either. So in I don't know if you can call it peacetime, but in a times where we're not in a big overseas war,
Mhm.
funding is just harder to come by, right?
Yep.
Like back in the Cold War days, sure they
Mhm.
were just writing blank checks, right? Like
Mhm.
whatever you want,
Yep.
military, here you go. But in slower times, I guess you could say they just try to save money,
Mhm.
right? Allocate money towards other things in the government or
Yeah, we're definitely in a contraction period.
interaction period. Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
So you were in the C-17. When does your commitment end? And you had the option to
Yeah,
stay on?
2021. So
Oh, okay. Wow, that's wild.
10 years after pilot training.
Okay.
So, that's traditionally when a lot of people leave active duty,
Go to the
become
airlines?
reservists, go to the airlines.
Mhm.
So
Did you?
I did all that.
Did you go to the airlines back then?
Yeah, I left active duty,
Mhm.
summer of 2021. Yeah, I got a reserve job. Started applying to airlines. It was kind of a weird time because it was,
Mhm.
mid-pandemic still.
Yep.
The airlines were actually not hiring when I left active duty, which was kind of nerve-wracking.
Right. And then they
Um,
needed to go
and
crazy.
then the floodgates opened. But
Yeah.
when I separated, it was pretty uncertain. I didn't know
Mhm.
what was going to happen, honestly.
Mhm.
So we moved across the country,
Mhm.
from we were living in Philadelphia,
Mhm.
sold our house in Philly, moved out here. Luckily, I had a reserve job, so I knew I at least had that,
Mhm.
insurance and a way to make decent money, and then at least pay the bills and have insurance, right?
Mhm.
And the airline started hiring in the fall of 2021,
Mhm.
and yeah, I was lucky enough to get on with Delta early 2022. Been there since. So
Nice.
yeah, I mean it's insane how many pilots they've hired the past few years. There's
Yeah.
6,000 pilots who are junior to me.
Yeah, I heard they're taking pilots at the minimum.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is that true?
I don't know, honestly. I mean, everyone I've met has been very qualified. So,
Mhm.
I mean, the minimums to be an airline pilot are still pretty high.
Right. It's true.
You hear that in the media and,
Mhm.
the public's probably oh my God, who's
Yeah.
flying these planes?
Yeah, I
But
don't say it to cause fear.
yeah, I
but-
know,
Yeah.
but you know, someone who's not a pilot, right?
Mhm.
They might hear that and think
Yeah.
who are these,
Mhm.
these clowns flying airplanes
But you
around?
used to have to fly like a commuter job for a while before you got into the
I
majors.
think it was a harder nut to crack,
Yeah.
But I mean, the minimums are still 1,500 hours, or if
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm not mistaken, which it's a lot of hours.
Yeah.
You're definitely a competent pilot by that point. I think back in the day, it was so competitive.
Exactly.
You wouldn't get a job offer unless you had 3,000, 4,000 hours. But
Yep.
I mean, honestly, especially as a cargo pilot, a lot of those hours are kind of empty hours anyway.
Mhm.
If you have 1,000 hours in an F-16 versus
Mhm.
3,000 in the C-17, every minute of your 1,000 F-16 hours are probably pretty action packed, right?
Mhm.
But in the C-17, you're spending 7, 8, 9 hours at a time just crossing the ocean.
Mhm. You're logging a lot of hours.
You're logging a lot of hours, but you're not
Yeah.
hand flying the plane when you're just at cruise over the Pacific, right?
Yeah, you're right about
So-
action packed. That's for sure.
So not all hours are
Yeah.
created equal.
Right.
But I mean, I think the people they're hiring are still very competent. It's just they needed pilots badly, right? So I mean, 5,000-6,000 people got hired after me, and I've only been there for a few years. That's crazy.
That's probably two things happened, right? A lot of people took the retirement or said, I'm out. And then a lot of people, and then the economy took off again, right?
Yeah, the economy took off. Travel, revenge travel, right? After the
Yep.
pandemic, a
Yep.
lot of people were chomping
Mhm.
at the bit to go
Mhm.
travel.
They're like, we can't get routes fast enough.
Yeah, because a lot of people just didn't go anywhere for
Mm,
a year or 2 or 3, so they were like
mm,
ready to travel. And
mm,
yeah, a lot of just guys and girls reaching retirement age,
mm,
right? 65.
mm.
So just kind of like a perfect storm of like retirements at the top end of the company, travel demand. Yeah, I feel super lucky. My timing was what it was. It's, lately, they've kind of paused hiring.
Did they? They're
Yeah,
like,
which I
yeah,
think it'll
enough.
pick up again later this year. But, just with tariffs and this, that, and the other, it's
Yep.
just been like kind of a crazy time
So they're,
economically. I
yeah, so they're pulling back and they're like waiting to see what's going to happen.
think they're just kind of being cautious and like
Mm.
letting the world stabilize a little bit. I think we're all kind of looking forward to the world stabilizing a little bit.
So yeah, the timing of yours was pretty good because a lot of pilots were hired after you. So then you've got seniority from
Exactly.
those pilots, right?
Yeah.
Are you
I'm like
first officer or
top
are you
30%
captain
in
yet?
my category now.
Okay.
I'm a first officer.
With more seniority than you would if you had to start over, right?
Yeah. I mean, being a captain, everyone who's a captain is generally more senior.
Mm-hmm.
It's all relative to which seat and which airplane you're in.
Yeah.
So I fly the A220 as a
Okay.
first officer, and I'm like top 30% now
Mm.
in that category, which is
Is the
pretty
A220
good.
a C-17 very similar?
Similar in a lot of ways. They're both sticks,
Mm-hmm.
similar kind of like cockpit design.
Mm-hmm.
The 220 is an Airbus. Um, C-17 is a Boeing product, so little differences here and there, but honestly, it was very intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
And they fly differently, like they
Mm-hmm.
land differently, which is probably the biggest difference.
Yeah.
C-17 lands on the backside of the power curve, right? It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
unique in that regard. Pretty much every other airplane lands on the front side of the power curve.
Mm-hmm. Can you
So,
explain that?
yeah,
Even to
C-17,
me.
it's for like short field landings and stuff,
Okay.
right? So
Yeah.
like you fly so slow
Mm-hmm.
in the C-17 on the backside of the power curve on
Yep.
final,
Mm-hmm.
you actually add power to flare
Yep.
plane, right? So like you advance the throttles instead of a normal airplane, you're in the flare, you're like pulling power,
Yep.
pitching up and then
Yeah.
just sort of settling down to the runway, right? But
Mm-hmm.
like on a C-17, you have a fixed pitch, you're controlling your vertical with the power because you're on the backside of the power curve, which I'm not an aeronautical engineer, but like,
Yeah.
there's the famous, aviation power curve that
Mm-hmm.
applies to pretty much all powered flight, right? And the C-17 actually was designed to operate on the backside of it so it could fly slower and land in a shorter distance. And that's kind of the main thing it does really well is it lands and, it can land on dirt on a,
Mm-hmm.
few thousand feet.
Yeah.
Uh,
Are
which is
you
pretty
do
remarkable.
you have the spoilers in a certain mode when you're landing?
Yeah. The spoilers deploy,
Mm.
so
Those probably help a lot for the backside of the power curve.
they help a lot when you're flying on final. The thing that really stops the plane is the brakes. It's C-17 has like super strong brakes.
Does
But
it?
yeah, the combination of flying slower, spoilers, brakes,
Mhm.
and then you're touching down pretty firm,
Are you?
So
Yeah, you don't want those airline passengers to feel that
no, you're
in the A220.
your C-17 assault landing would
Yeah.
frighten the average airline passenger.
Yeah.
I mean, it frightens a lot of the military passengers,
Sure.
honestly.
Like, what happened?
I think they know what to expect,
Yeah.
Like guys have been flying on C-17s long enough. They know like probably fasten our seatbelts,
Right.
you know.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, it's aggressive.
And it's
And
like,
a lot of guys probably make it overly aggressive,
Mhm.
because
because
it's fun. Because it's fun.
Yeah,
I
based on
guess.
what you said, it's like it's going to be the C-17 is going to be way different than the F-16. You said the C-17 is on the backside of the power curve,
Yeah.
and the F-16 is constantly trying to fly, even when you're idle.
Oh really?
Yeah, so it's the computer's trying to fly it, so like it's hard to land an F-16.
Really?
Yeah, because it's bouncing down
Oh,
the runway, and
That's-
it's just right at the edge of flying again.
right.
So I know what you mean
And so,
about
that'd be kind of stressful.
Yeah, it's going fast, and and the computer's trying to fly the plane.
Right.
And
Probably going quite a bit faster when you land. I mean, how many knots are you flying when you're on average?
Well, if you're light, you might be down at like 150, 160.
Right.
But if you're heavy, you're over 200.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. The only time you're ever landing that fast in a C-17 is if your like flaps don't come out or something.
Okay.
And you're doing definitely a non-standard
Mhm.
landing. And at that point, you're doing a front side landing. But
Yeah. So the F-16 sounds like it's on the front side of the curve.
Oh, yeah.
And then
I think pretty much every airplane is.
Hmm.
C-17 is very unique.
Is it? And it's so that it can do that short field
landings, yeah.
Yeah.
It's an amazing airplane. I mean,
That's pretty
whoever
cool.
designed that thing, way smarter than I am.
And it's built by Boeing, right?
Oh.
And it probably...
just finished building them recently.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, they closed down the in Long Beach.
Is that where they built them?
Yeah. For decades. I think just like last year, they closed down the plant.
They stopped producing new ones?
Yeah. Kind of sad, but it's end of an era.
What's the new cargo plane?
It's a good question. I think they're really thinking about cargo planes right now because they just put out a new tanker.
Yeah, I just saw that.
KC-46 and fighters and bombers, right? They just forget the name of it. The new there was the new bomber. The
47?
Is that what it is? Because there's a new stealth bomber and there's a new stealth fighter that just...
I thought it was the 47 because it was the Trump, 47.
Well, yeah. Oh.
You remember that?
Is that why they named it the 47?
That's what was that was the news story.
That wouldn't surprise
and that's why
me.
it was such a big, hilarious deal.
That is pretty hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I remember it.
He's a modest guy.
Yeah.
No.
And they're like, my favorite thing about it is that it's 47.
Whatever, as long as it works, I guess. But the fighter just came out. But I think like last year they came out with the new bomber to like replace like the B-2 and stuff. Forget the... I have a hard time remembering.
It was like the Air Raider
numbers.
And I thought it was the 20 something.
Yeah, B-21.
Yeah, B-21.
B-21 is the new bomber. And F-47.
I'm pretty sure it was a 47. I might be wrong though.
Yeah.
But that one, I'm pretty sure it's a Boeing, the 47. And,
I think you're right.
And I think it can be pilot.
I think the bomber is Lockheed Martin.
And the 47 could be pilot, no pilot.
Yeah, well, I mean the days of manned fighter planes are definitely numbered.
Definitely.
I think fighter jets gonna be the first ones to go unmanned.
Definitely.
Probably, right?
Yeah, I just saw Anduril Corporation has a fighter that's pilotless, and it's designed to be a wingman for the F-35.
Oh wow! And
So
it's already flying.
Yep. So it serves as it's just a wingman plane. So it's basically probably automatically controlled by the F-35. It just stays in position.
Oh wow!
And just stays out of the way.
Huh.
And so the F-35 pilot can deploy it.
It's pretty wild.
I know. Yeah.
It's cool. And it's good from a safety perspective because hopefully a lot fewer humans will die in combat.
Right.
I mean, we're definitely we're entering a weird era in warfighting. Like
we are.
Star Wars type stuff, like robots fighting robots.
Yeah. Yeah. Our robots against your robots. Who's got better
droids
robots?
And lightsabers are probably right around the corner.
Right. Yeah, I guess the
literally like whose robot is better.
Yeah. That's
yeah.
So it's going to come down to chips, who's got better chips and who's got better computing power.
Which is why Taiwan's such a big deal. They make all those microchips there. Yeah, man.
They're making them in Phoenix now.
Yeah, I know they.
That, right?
I think that was one of the bigger accomplishments that Biden had, right? Like, was the CHIPS Act and all that. I know Arizona. I think there's 2 or 3 other facilities that they.
Yeah, getting chip manufacturing in the United States is important.
Yeah, it's a huge deal, right? Like everything runs on computers nowadays.
Right.
So. I know Arizona is the main place, but yeah. So hopefully that goes well. I know it takes a ton of water to do that.
Totally.
Arizona isn't known for their abundance of water.
Well, the one module to chips is about the size of a shipping container. And it's like $1 billion to make one module.
Wow.
And I thought it was a Dutch company that had they build the tooling for it. And so we had to really do a lot of...
Dutch do a lot of random cool things. We were just there.
Were you?
We did my first time there. We, our Europe trip over spring break, went to London, and then you asked about the ferry. We did a overnight ferry from England to the Netherlands, which was fun once.
Yeah.
The kids loved it. It was just kind of exhausting for the parents, but
sure.
We went to Amsterdam, but yeah, the Dutch are very like smart, engineering minded people, I think.
Yep.
Maybe it comes from all the, like the dikes and stuff, right? Like their whole country is like below sea level.
Yeah.
And they have all the windmills, I think a long, long time ago, they had to figure out like how to be engineers to survive.
Right. I mean, the first at-scale shipping industry where they had stocks in the shipping companies and building ships, the shipbuilding industry.
Yeah.
I understand came from there.
Yeah. I mean, they were like the Portuguese first and then the Dutch maybe.
What the Dutch
in terms
did,
of like seafarers, yeah.
Yeah, what the Dutch did, that, from my understanding, is that they sold stock in the shipbuilding company so that they could build more ships.
Yeah, what was it, like the East India company or something?
So the idea of selling shares in the company, so they could raise enough capital.
They kind of pioneered the stock market.
Right, exactly.
Which is interesting because then, they owned Manhattan, right? New Amsterdam. And it was sold to, Brits bought it from the Dutch, right? It's just funny. That's where Wall Street is now.
Isn't that fascinating?
That is a really interesting connection, actually.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any, if that's just a coincidence, Seems like it is.
Well, that was a superpower before England.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, like the Portuguese and the Dutch. And
it was kind of based on naval power.
And the Spanish. Right? It was totally based on naval power. And the Spanish and the French and the Brits. And the Brits kind of won out.
Yeah.
But, yeah, if you've ever seen that, speaking of movies, that Master and Commander movie with Russell Crowe.
I might have seen that.
It's all about just the naval battles between France and England back in the 1700s. Literally, whoever controlled the seas controlled the world. And that's where England won out, because they're an island nation.
Right.
They had the natural security, and they were just better seafarers than anybody else.
Yeah, and that was a long time. I mean, that was probably 1,000 years. Whereas the air power, the battle for air power became a thing, but that only was less than
20th
100
century.
years. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And now it's space.
And not really even until World War II.
Right.
Because there were planes in World War I, but I mean, there were guys throwing grenades out of little biplanes, like blimps and stuff.
Yeah, and I just heard it was pretty funny. My father-in-law went to Brazil, where what's the airplane manufacturer?
Oh, Embraer.
Embraer.
Oh.
So he went down there on a Boeing kind of thing because he was an engineer for Boeing, and they gave him the whole red carpet treatment, and welcome to Embraer, and it was their manufacturing facility, and they have this big museum there, and where they tell everyone that they invented flying.
Really?
Yeah, which makes perfect sense because
maybe they did. I don't know.
Yeah, the whole world was testing, and people were dying in plane crashes trying to get off the ground, jumping off boats, jumping off cliffs.
Yeah, maybe they invented it and the guys didn't survive. The Wright brothers were famously very good self-promoters, right?
Yeah.
And they survived. Yeah, like you said, a lot of people were dying in airplanes.
And
so maybe somebody in Brazil flew first, but then he died very quickly after
I can totally see why they have a claim for it, because they weren't communicating with North Carolina. And it probably happened within in the same year.
Probably.
Or within a few months.
Yeah, it took a long time for news to travel back then.
Right. And so in
France too, they were aviation pioneers, the first balloons were in France.
Yep.
I think there's with cars too, I think there were a lot of people who were doing the same stuff around the same time, but Henry Ford and the Wright brothers, and they were the ones who kind of were just good self-promoters. Right?
Yeah, we just had a better PR department.
Yeah, I think Edison was that way with the light bulb, and what do they say? Fortune favors the bold or whatever. guys who really get their names out there, and
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
there's definitely people who that's their mentality is like, I will go down in history, and
Mhm.
they are the ones we learn about in school.
Exactly. That's why all the pithy
That's why
comments.
people don't like Americans, because we're
Yeah.
like such self promoters. Yeah.
Right. And everything is attributed to like Mark Twain said this, or like Benjamin
Yeah.
Franklin said this.
Yeah. I mean, probably 10% of those are actual quotes, right? But
Yeah. I remember we talked about Benjamin Franklin when you were talking about Philadelphia.
oh yeah, yeah. He
Right?
was like, I mean, he's like the most famous Philadelphian of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was born in Massachusetts. He's buried in Philly.
Mhm.
Lived there forever. Obviously, founding father and all that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, amazing guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so many ways. Kind of like a Da Vinci type, just like polymath.
Yeah. And I just want to,
The Franklin Institute is there.
okay.
Amazing. If
Huh.
you're ever there, take your kids to the Franklin Institute.
Yeah. I want to, learn more about him. And I understand he had basically a newsletter, right? Poor Richard's
Yeah,
Almanac.
Poor Richards. Yeah, he. I think he started the post office. How to feel it? Like he founded the post office. Um,
That's
stuff like
visionary.
that. Yeah, he was like the first postmaster of the U.S. Like really remarkable guy. Yeah, he had his flaws like anybody else. Right?
Mhm.
Famously,
Mhm.
spent a lot of time in France.
Yeah.
not with his wife, but
Oh, really? The
yeah,
most important key features, yeah. A lot of these guys, weren't held back at all. You can see that it probably goes hand in hand. With
yeah,
super ambitious. They're going to have your biggest strength becomes a weakness. All that stuff for sure.
yeah.
But Benjamin Franklin and Alexander Hamilton, fascinating.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think lately with that play and everything, he's become more famous. But yeah, I think he was like pretty much regarded as the smartest guy
Mhm.
of all the founding fathers, right? Like he set up our whole economic system,
Yeah,
capitalism,
the Federal
the
Reserve.
Federal Reserve, the Treasury.
He had the concept of borrowing money as a resource,
Mhm.
and that that is genius. To have the
That wasn't really a thing before him, right?
right. No.
Yeah.
So that's fascinating and the key principle for Hamilton, but Benjamin Franklin, I'm not sure other than just pithy comments. But Benjamin Franklin, do you know what he can be? What thing you said? The post office.
Yeah. Well, he, I mean, the list goes on, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, Poor Richards,
Mhm.
post office.
Mhm.
I want to say he had a lot to do with like fire insurance and stuff like that, where
Mm.
like people would have their homes protected. So like
Yeah.
if you go around Philadelphia, there's
There's wood homes, right?
well, I don't know if there's too many now, but like
Mhm.
you look on the outside of all these row houses in Philly, you'll see a little symbol on a lot of them, like a
Mhm.
oval
Okay.
metallic symbol where it basically meant this home has fire insurance. So if it's on fire, the fire department would look for that. I think that was his thing.
Wow.
But obviously, like he was a key player in the revolution.
Diplomacy too, probably. Right?
Diplomacy. He was kind of our original like Secretary of State almost.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Like him and Jefferson.
Right.
I think were the two guys who spent a lot of time in like France, which obviously if it wasn't for France, we would have probably lost the Revolutionary War, right?
Yep. Exactly.
So I think diplomacy.
Mm.
Um,
And Louisiana Purchase
and
was
then
from France?
just the city of Philadelphia. I think he had a lot to do with like
The city of Philadelphia.
that was the first most prominent city, really. Philly and New York, but
Mm.
I mean, Philly was the capital of America for 10 years, right? Like a lot of people don't realize that. But while they were building DC,
Mhm.
I think New York was the first capital, then Philly, then DC.
Mhm.
So from like 1790 to 1800, I think Philly was the capital,
Mhm.
which was kind of like the most crucial time in the history of America because, we won the Revolutionary War, but our country was kind of a mess after that
Mhm.
because we didn't have a constitution, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and these are things you learn when you live in Philly.
Mhm.
You can just nerd out on American history, but like
Mhm.
we,
For about 10 years, we
we had the Declaration of Independence, but then
Mhm.
think the Constitutional Congress was like when, I can't remember, 1780, 1790, around there. So that's when we really like put everything into writing. Like, this is our constitution that our nation will be built on. Because the Declaration of Independence was just like, we're not part of England anymore, you know?
That's just when it started.
Right. And but that's not like
right.
It's not like a Magna Carta type thing where you can like base a nation on the Declaration of Independence, right?
Yeah.
But the Constitution is like the living document where it's like obviously still going, but
that's fascinating.
So like Philly was like the capital, the Constitutional Congress. Yeah. Like Washington lived there. Like if you go to Philly, you can see where his house was in Philly.
Really?
Yeah. It's pretty cool. And it was all just while DC was being turned from a swamp into a city. A lot of people like call DC a swamp. It's literally built on a swamp.
That's funny.
Yeah. Anyway, that period of history is so interesting.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people wanted the capital to be in New York.
Well, I mean, I think it was the first capital.
Or wanted to stay in New York?
Yeah, they wanted to like, because it was like Philly and New York were like the big, and Boston were like the big cities.
Competing, right? Cities.
But like Boston, though, like I don't think was ever quite on the same level, right? But like New York, yeah. I don't know if they wanted to like keep like finance and politics separate, maybe, or because New York was always like the financial center, still is. You know, I don't know. There's probably a book about it.
Yeah, that'd be something that's great.
If there's not a book,
there you go.
Book we should write.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
the one thing between when was the Revolutionary War won? When was it completed?
Well, 1776 was the declaration. I think the war ended in 80. It was like 4 or 5 years. So like 80, 81. And then like the 1780s were just like chaos, right? Because like we won the war, but then it's like, that was almost like the easy part. Then you have to like form a coherent nation and get all these like states to actually work together. And they were all just like colonies, right? Effectively.
And who were the leading minds at the time? Was it Franklin and Alexander
like
Hamilton?
Washington, Hamilton, Jefferson, Franklin, John Adams, right? Which, and if you want a good show to watch that actually doesn't take that long, the John Adams show on HBO.
Okay.
Adams was he, I'm trying to remember, was he the first vice president? Forget, but he was the second president, right? Adams and then Jefferson. But those two, Adams and Jefferson, like they kind of like competed their whole lives, but respected each other. They died. It's like one of the coolest facts of all time. They both died on July 4th, the same day.
They've died on the same day?
Same day on July 4th. Isn't that cool? Like two of the, most prominent founding fathers. Two of the top 5 dudes, right? In early American history. And they both died on July 4th of all days. In like, I don't know, 18 something. But
and how old are these guys when they died? Were they like 60s?
They were both pretty old. Yeah, Jefferson and Adams were both pretty old. I think Washington was 70s.
That's pretty old for
He lived
that
a long time. Franklin was very old. Franklin was like 80s. But
that's like modern day, centenarian.
Oh yeah, I mean to be in your 80s and
you got to watch out what you eat.
That's genetics. Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
Like for back then, that's just genetics. Nowadays we like know about health and stuff, but back then, I mean, they literally drank like whiskey in the morning,
right?
Because water wasn't clean enough,
Exactly.
But no, I think guys like Ben Franklin, it was just for luck and genetics.
Yeah.
But he was probably a pretty active guy, he probably got his steps in. But yeah, I mean, it's a crazy time, right? Like I don't think it was till like DC was built and we had the Constitution, things kind of like settled down a little bit. Then there was the War of 1812. England burned down the White House. And like, I don't know. That's why I like history, because it makes you realize like there's never been a calm, really peaceful time ever. And I guess like the 90s were kind of chill, but not completely.
Yeah.
Like in America, it was pretty chill, but we're still wars. There's always something going on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
people are freaking out nowadays, right? But
exactly.
I think it's largely a function of like the internet and social media.
You know what, Eric, you're exactly right. We've never had so much peace in the world in the big picture,
Like overall.
Yeah, overall.
Yeah. There's always going to be conflict. There's always going to be tragedies.
Right.
I don't know.
But we've kind of, for the most part, there's not, people aren't dying from starvation.
Most places.
In most places.
There's some examples, unfortunately, still, which there shouldn't be. Like, there's enough food in the world, right? That's one of the most like tragic things. There's plenty of food globally.
Yeah. So if I were to go to Philadelphia, and you were going to, right? Like,
oh man. I mean, just like Old City, which is where all that stuff happened that we're just talking about. It's
spend
like
a couple days.
You can go to, Independence Hall, which is where they signed the Declaration of Independence. You can go do tours in there. There's a whole like park there where the Liberty Bell is, the Constitution Center. The art museum is incredible. Tons of good restaurants and tons of breweries around there. Philly's known for like, I think they eat more cheese than any city in America. So tons of good cheese and cheese steaks and Philly's an amazing city. There's so much culture there. It really has a lot of the same stuff as New York. It's more walkable and it's more affordable. So I love Philly. I mean, it's like any city, there's rough parts, right? Just, but if you stay to like downtown Center City, we lived in Fishtown, which is a really cool area. Fishtown, Northern Liberties, Center City, the university area is super cool, or like the University of Pennsylvania is. It's a nice area. There's a ton of colleges there, a ton of hospitals. It's a world-class city. And I think it just had a bad rap for a lot of years because of like, I don't know, like the depictions in like Rocky and stuff. And it was rough, like just like New York or Chicago, like Philly, it was pretty rough for some decades, right? Like 70s, 80s, into the 90s. And then it, like a lot of American cities, started turning the corner. And we loved it there. It was awesome.
Thanks for listening to the latest episode with Erik Henden. One of the things I really enjoyed goes with this quote: treat failure like a scientist. Each attempt is an experiment. Each mistake is a clue. You're not failing, you're refining. And I'll see you guys on the other side.